folks, Wagman here. Welcome back to the Wagtail Workshop. In this episode I'm going to be showing you how to convert your wagtail handle into a pole tip tool. Let's get into it. What we'll need for this project is hammer, angle arm adapter, an old wagtail handle, your brush of choice, the cobweb brush of choice, and the adapter that fits it, hacksaw, and your heat gun. Right, let's put this thing together. Okay, so the handle we're going to work on first is the one for the cobweb brush. So that's the adapter that we have here in where I live in my town. This pretty much does all of the same thread types. Obviously in your region, pick the thread type that suits your area and just use that. And then it really doesn't matter which style of brush head you have. See the different style there as opposed to the different style there. It doesn't matter, the thread is still the same. That's the important thing, because then you can use this, you can swap it about on different type brush, cobweb brushes. It won't matter. Alright, so that's the first thing we're going to do, and this one we're going to put into the angle arm. So I'm going to take it down to approximately that line that runs across there. I'm going to use that as my cutting guide, and then that will be pushed into there, into the vise, nice and tight. Okay, reposition that now from there up to there. This bit here we're going to push into this bit here. At the moment there's not enough room. So take the heat gun, heat this up until you feel like it's fairly flexible. Now, because Wagtail's plastic is very good quality and very thick walled, it's going to take a little bit of heating. Okay, so put some time onto it, and then just keep checking it with this. Once you get it pliable enough, then we're going to tap it down with the hammer. Okay, I think we'll try that now. Put that in there, work it in a little bit, get it just so it's fed in, and then tap it. Tap it down until it's quite almost at the level of that, and that is perfect. Now just let that go off and cool down. And so as it cools down, that will shrink a little bit and grip nice and tight to this fella here. So if the angle arm that you receive does not come with the corresponding hole here like others do, what happens with this hole here actually lines up perfectly with the Unger pole tip and others, so that works perfectly. So if yours doesn't come with that hole, what you need to do is find the corresponding drill bit to go with that, and use that corresponding drill bit for that hole, and mark a hole in the new one, and we'll just drill a hole in that. You only need to mark the one hole on the one side and just drill straight through. That gives you one both sides. There we go. That is super duper tight. That's cooled down and shrunk down. If you feel you need to put a little screw in that to hold it tighter, if for some reason it didn't grip as tight as you wanted to, simply just whack a screw in. All that'll do is to stop it from turning, which is what we want. So we take this now. The reason why I love wagtail handles so much is because they fit onto Unger pole tips beautifully. They have this little locking device here, which I love. The hole corresponds with that little locking device, which means now that when I screw this fella on top here, and I screw that nice and tight, that means that I can get this up into corners of windows of buildings along gutters, and this whole handle isn't going to turn. What happens is often when you get into a corner and you're flicking it around like this to try to flick the bugs and the spiders and things out, what happens is this loosens up a little bit. Let's suppose the button wasn't in. This loosens up a little bit, and as you turn the handle, the actual thing stays still, but the handle turns. Absolute pain, and then, you know, as it wiggles more and more, it falls off. But this is perfect. The other great thing for it also is it fits wagtail to wagtail. It's perfect. They're made for each other, so they actually fit in together beautifully. Nice and snug fit, so they don't move much. Wagtail to wagtail is fine. So next is how I set up my sill brush. Same thing, but in this case we have to use a wagtail handle rather than a wagtail angle arm. Reason is the brush handle here is too long for this section here. When it's fitted in, it's too far down. There's no room for your pole to go in here. So that's why we have to use an old handle and cut the old handle down to suit this. Let's do that now. Okay, so with the old handle, wagtail handle, we're going to cut that off just underneath that bend mark, just there. Okay, and we're going to use that section to open up and manipulate with the heat gun around here. Okay, so now we're left with this. Now what we need to do here is basically cut that out a little bit, just using a screwdriver just to get it started. Just want to get that center section out. There's a center rib that runs through there, a strengthening rib. We actually want to take that out. So this one here is the brush that I prefer. It's cheap. When it rounds off on the edges, I simply just trim it back a little bit. I get 2 or 3 cuts out of this, so I get 2 or 3 new brushes. But it's cheap. It's a straight handle, which I like for this particular situation and project. So I'll show you how this fits in now into the handle. Okay, so here's the handle cleaned out of its strengthening rib. Now you can see there's a straight section and a bridge, you know, arc type section there, which almost corresponds with this shape. They're very similar. So what I'm going to do now is heat this up with the heat gun, and so that it's pliable, and then I'm going to tap this in, very similar to exactly what I did with the cobweb brush adapter. That's gone in now. So it's gone in now, so I'll turn that off. But what I want to do is just keep moving it around so that I don't want it to grip tight onto the handle, because then it won't come out. I basically want to have it so it's nice and tight, but not so tight that I can't get it in and out. Alright, I'll leave it now onto the largest. There's a bit of a bow in the handle, so I'll leave it onto the largest size of the handle, and that way it'll go in and out, because it will shrink when it cools down. Right, so that now has opened up quite nicely. Got the straight edge here, the rounded edge on top. Now if I come around here and have a look down there, you can see that I haven't quite got all that strengthening rib out of that section. So as the handle goes in and out, it gets caught on that strengthening rib. So take your file and just clean that up so it's a nice open area inside there. Okay, so with that now cleaned up, it's a lovely tight fit on the handle of my brush head here, sill brush here. So I can give that a couple of little taps in, and that's nice and tight. You know, it's not going anywhere unless you literally yank it out so that you can change it over and put a new one in. So your brush may not be this one, your brush of choice. Just make the hole, you're using the heat gun, make the hole suit whatever size brush handle you're using. Okay, so why am I farting around setting up this this system here for my brush? Well, I've got this brush, for example, in my pouch or on my belt, and okay, it's okay to grab, but it's really quite thin, as opposed to this section here, which I can grab nice and firm. So that's one thing. It's a good firm grip when I want to use it by hand. The second thing is, and the most important thing, and this is the real reason why, because I can then pop this little fella straight onto my personal pole, which section down like this is about 2.5 foot, extended out to about 4 foot, which is perfect little personal pole, just for getting that extra reach. If I've got cobwebs I need to sort out up on top of a sill, commercial sill, or even just quickly get the under the eaves at a residential property, I can just pop this straight on to the pole there, and it ain't going nowhere. Now, I can also pop this straight onto, because it's wagtail to wagtail is absolutely fantastic. You can go straight onto the angle arm, so that just gives me that extra foot and a half reach that I need just to get that little bit without pulling out my little ladder. Okay, so there are the two hand tools for wagtail handles. The cobweb brush, which I mostly use on the higher stuff, you know, sort of 3 meters and above. I generally use this. Anything sort of close to hand, I'll use this for sill stuff, for getting just, you know, just can't quite reach it. Stick it on my little personal pole, and you know, it works perfectly. Okay, so why do I use the wagtail handle instead of using, for example, a piece of PVC piping? Now, I have used the PVC piping in the past, for example this one here, and yes, you can get thicker PVC piping. If you want anything to know how to bend and manipulate the PVC piping, go and see Herman's YouTube channel, Herman Wieland, and he does a lot of stuff on melting plastics, heating up plastics, just like I've shown you here. His stuff is where I learned how to do this heating of the plastic, so go and check out his channel. But what I find with this sort of plastic is it cracks too easily, and it doesn't fit every single handle, whereas wagtail pole tip, whereas wagtail handles, they just tend to fit all sorts of handles. They just go straight on. That's an Unga. I've got an old Glidex here, which I only really use at home nowadays, but it fits beautifully on there. Tapered edge, it's really good. Give that a nice good snug, and that fits quite reasonably as well. It'll fit the Toro pole tips, it'll fit the Mormon pole tips. This actually clicks into the Mormon pole tip, which is quite handy as well. So that's why I like to use the wagtail handle, because it is very universal, and that is a big plus, a big tip. So there you have it, folks, the wagtail hand tool adapter, I guess. So there you go, this is Wagman. Give that a go. Alright.